Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with daily technical update. It is Wednesday, the 11th of June. This video is an educational video only. There's no recommendation or advice whatsoever intended. Today we'll start with Tesla. That after the beefs with Trump last week, it got hammered, but has bounced strongly, and it's now testing the little gap area here. Up to 332. If it closes that gap, well, then it could bounce even stronger back. And also, if RSI closes back above 60 thresholds, that will be key. If it's being rejected on both accounts, well, then downtrend could resume. So keep an eye on that. On the overall indices, looking at Nasdaq 100 yesterday, pushed higher and it's getting very close to its all-time highs there at 22,222. So we can also see the RSI breaking above and closing above its falling trend line down here. That could be a sign that it will push higher in the coming weeks. It has cancelled its potential top and reversal pattern. Here pre-market though, we are setting back a little bit, as we can see, but that's not much to talk about at the moment. On the S&P 500, also pushed higher yesterday. RSI pushing higher despite showing divergence. There is potential to 6,150. We are above 6,000 here yesterday, so fairly strong move, despite the fact that there's a divergence building up, but trust the trend. The Dow Jones also closed above its resistance there, and is also confirming and continuing its bullish trend. In Asian session, we saw Seng to the 24,394. That's the 138.2 projection of that little correction there. I think we'll see it pushing higher here in the coming days towards 25,000. We have the RSI in a bullish trend, and after breaking above its falling trend line there, and testing its previous peak, and I think we could see it pushing higher in the coming days. Also Nikkei testing resistance there at 38,470, spiked a little bit above. I think it will break higher, and if it does, well, then we are in a potential bullish push towards, and we can do this with the Fibonacci's, then we can say, well, probably up to around 40,000. Before we move on to DAX and EuroStoxx50, let's have a look at what's going on in Novo Nordisk, the weight loss pharmaceutical company, and insulin also. They're big sellers. We talked about it the past few weeks, that it should close above the 468 resistance area here, and RSI should close above 60 threshold, and it did that just late last week. Just last week it closed above, so it shouldn't come as a surprise to you who is listening and watching my videos that it actually did close above, and is now pushing towards the resistance at 526, and the upper part of the cloud here, positive sentiment on the RSI indicating likely higher levels. I would not be surprised. It's not a recommendation or anything, and there's no certainties, but I would not be surprised if we see it pushing higher towards 550 and maybe even 570, 573 here in the coming days and weeks. On the EuroStoxx50, well, dancing sideways, really needs to close above 5,437 to really resume bullish trend here pre-market. It's also flat. DAX a little bit sold off yesterday, and we have this top and reversal pattern in place. If it takes out 23,704, well, then we could see a larger correction, but for now it is indicating to more or less unchanged. So I still think it will hold on a little bit. It was mostly the defense stocks that sold off a bit yesterday. So maybe there's some profit taking going on there. Euro dollar dancing sideways here around 114. Will we have a correction or not? I wouldn't be surprised if we actually do get a correction, but let's see. We're still above the rising trend line, still positive sentiment on the RSI. if it takes out the peak up there, and I will actually draw a horizontal line just to indicate where we are. I'm looking at 114.95, just below 115. If it breaks above that level, then I think we'll see a push towards 116. But there's still a risk of correction there. Also, when we are looking at the Swiss franc and the dollar index shortly. Sterling dollar 134.15 could be tested here. And I think it could dip lower. There is divergence on the RSI. We talked about it for quite some time. That it could occur. We could see a dip down to 133.25, maybe a lower. However, if it takes out 136.20, well, then we're looking 137, 138. Euro sterling, it's on the move, closed above the 84.65. And I think we could see it possibly push up to test the cloud area and the 85, which is a 38.2 retracement of that entire downtrend there. Currently, the 55 moving average is given a little bit of resistance, and also the 60 threshold will give some resistance here. So the next day or so, 24 hours maybe, could be crucial. Will it push higher? Will the RSI be rejected, or will it close above? Then there could be much more upside for Euro sterling if that scenario plays out. On the yen pairs, dollar yen, I think it will keep bouncing and maybe testing the 146.30 resistance here for 2030. There is cloud resistance. The 55 moving average still wants to drag it lower. Still negative sentiment here on the R. No, it actually closed above here. Well, it's marginal, I would say. So we are in a sideways range between 142 and 146.30, and breakout is needed for direction. What has broken out here is actually the euro yen. Finally, it took out that the resistance there at 165.20. When I did the recording yesterday, or the video yesterday, it looked like we should have a top reversal with a bearish candle here, but it didn't materialize. Buyers came in, lifted it. I think we could see it now to 166.55, possibly higher. We could also try to guesstimate that a bit and say, okay, 138.2 projection of this correction here is 166.80 and possibly higher, but definitely up here it seems like 166.55 area. Excuse me. The Aussie yen currently testing the 786 retracement 94.80. Could see a little bit of a setback, but we are in a positive sentiment now. And I think we'll see it pushing higher towards the 95.75, where there will be some stronger resistance in that area. The sterling yen, again yesterday tested 196.40 resistance, setting back a little bit, but we're still in a positive sentiment. I think eventually we will break higher, and then there's room up to 199.200. Aussie dollar slowly crawling higher towards this resistance there at 65.50. Positive sentiment on the RSI. We have the 55 and 100 moving average coming out. Still the 200 trying to keep it down, but it's getting harder and harder. And I think we'll see a test of 65.50 eventually, and maybe then a rejection and then another go at it. Dollar Canada. Oops. Let's just resize that. There we are. And let's zoom in. So the correction doesn't seem to materialize at the moment. If it takes out 130.30 down here, 130.30, then expect a lower push towards, and let's have a look at the weekly for that. Then we could see it actually pushing lower towards 135, and if it takes out the rising trend line there. So it could be crucial times there for dollar Canada to maybe not bounce, but correct lower. But if it takes out the peak from yesterday, expect a bounce up to 137.80. Sterling Canada currently, as we speak, is breaking below the minor support here at 184.50. I think we now could see it down to the 183. What we can also do here, really from this uptrend up to there, where are we there? currently at the 61.8 retracement. I think we'll see at the 7.86 retracement at 183.50. And on to the Swiss francs. Euro Swiss above the falling trend line could push to the 94.25 resistance there, where we have the 100 moving average coming down, adding to the resistance. I think it will be rejected. Still negative sentiment on the RSI. Could reject it, and then we are still caught in range bound on Euro Swiss. Dollar Swiss, is it bouncing, crawling a little bit higher towards the 38.2 at 82.78 maybe? Still negative sentiment on the RSI, no divergence or minor divergence. If it takes out the 81.55, then we're looking at 80.40 level. And the dollar index, as we talked about, also bouncing a little bit, still holding on here, dancing sideways really. Still negative sentiment, no divergence. You can see that low over here on RSI also is the low here on the actual price chart. So a little bit can't make up its mind what it really wants to do. I mean, all moving averages lower. We should push lower, but it's still waiting to materialize. So there's still a risk or potential higher. If it starts breaking above its falling trend line there, then we could see a push up to 132. And on to metals and gold. Gold is really not doing much at the moment. Strangely enough, it's the other metals on the move, or some of the other metals on the move. We're still in this bullish trend, higher high, higher low, higher high, and possibly higher low. But it needs to take out 3,404 to resume or extend its uptrend, and RSI needs to get back above 60 threshold. So that's what's to look out for. Silver pausing a little bit, but we need to look at the weekly and possibly monthly chart for that also when we're looking at platinum in a minute. I think I will actually switch to the multi chart and we can see where we are. You can see we all broke above that level, and the next one is in this region around the 40, 41 and a half. Really a strong move at the moment, to say the least, on the monthly. And let's go back to the weekly. We can also see where we are going. It is the levels back here around 40, so that's what we are looking at the moment. Platinum really on the move, and it's continuing to extend. 1280 is next, and it seems unstoppable at the moment. Positive sentiment on the RSI weekly, likely to push higher. And if we are looking at the daily chart, well, we have an extreme 86.50 on the RSI, really overboard at the moment. I think we will see a correction kicking in fairly soon, possibly around 1,280. We could see that kicking in there. Really a strong move we have seen lately. The copper really not doing much, to say the least. It's just dancing sideways. Still negative sentiment here, but we are in above the cloud. We are above moving averages, but the 55 trying to drag it lower. So a little bit indecisive. Interesting that it hasn't followed through or kept up with the other ones. I think it's just a matter of time. Energy and WTI crude oil spiked higher yesterday, just below the 100 moving average. That is kind of putting a lid on the upside. We are in a positive sentiment with the RSI above 60 threshold, but it is strong. We can see all the moving averages are still pointing lower. However, we are above the cloud. We have established short-term bullish trend, but it is fragile, and we are hovering around this 64.87 resistance support area here. I think we could see a setback down to maybe 63, and then maybe it will have another go at the upside. But it will be a little bit of a struggle to really establish a strong bullish trend. The Brent spiked above the cloud, but it didn't take out the 68 resistance here. So still struggling, and RSI is still below 60 threshold, so that's also dragging on it. So it's not the strongest bullish trend, to say the least. We have European gas, EU gas. I think it will test this, the spike down there at 33.70. If it takes it out, well, then we could be looking at 31 level. The US nat gas really setting back after being rejected here just below the resistance at 384, still negative sentiment on the RSI, indicating it will slide lower, possibly down to around 330 at 325, where we have the 200 moving average coming up, giving some support. On the yield side, we have the US 10-year Treasury yield dancing around 450. If it takes out the little spike up there, 451.5, 452, then I think we'll see a push towards 455, maybe 462. We are in a correction phase or bouncing phase because we have positive sentiment on the RSI, so that's what we are looking at the moment. The 2-year, well, still in this range here between 384 and 403. On the European yields, we have the 10-year setting lower yesterday, but still above the 249 support here. I think it could dip down to 243, but it's the middle. We have a 55 moving average pushing it down here, as we can see. So as long as we are below that, then we are to the downside. We can also see lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. Well, we have a new lower low that is possible. Inflation numbers out of EU are fairly good at the moment, so maybe that's what is driving it. And the UK 10 actually dropped lower yesterday, pushing below the 61.8. I think we could see a testing 450 here fairly shortly, despite that the RSI didn't close below 40 threshold, but I think we could see a test of the 786 retracement of this uptrend here at 450. Bitcoin pausing a little bit after the strong move up there on Monday. I still believe that we'll see it pushing higher because we have positive sentiment on the RSI. For now, there's no divergence, and I think we could see it testing the 112,000 peak or all-time highs there fairly shortly, and I also think it will actually break through it towards 160.5, possibly higher towards 120 in the coming days and weeks. The Ethereum closed yesterday above the resistance there, and I think we'll see it push towards 2,900, possibly also 3,000. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day, and talk to you again later.